Howdy, friends. How's it going? How are we doing? Stars, Travis, Fruity, hello. Lurkers, hello. It's Friday. I'm kind of glad it's Friday, but also, I'm still incredibly tired. So, we're just gonna, I don't want to say we're gonna take it easy, but we're definitely just gonna kind of coast today. Be a little, low energy. Thanks! Thank you. Thank you. I showered this morning. That's my secret. Look, if you take a shower every once in a while, you too can look this gorgeous. No. I woke up and said I'm gonna make an effort today, and I did, and I feel good for it. So thank you for noticing. I also have a Lamia on my lap, so I'm gonna be wiggling around a little bit because she makes sitting very uncomfortable, but anything for the baby. Yeah, it seems like it's just a sleepy day for a lot of us, which is fine. Sometimes we just gotta take a sleepy week, honestly. Yeah, she do. She's been, I don't know, she's been acting weird the last, like, day or two, and I don't know if it's because I'm acting weird, or if she's just not feeling too hot, or if she's just extra sleepy as well, so I'm just like, you stay right here, and I keep an eye on you. It's honestly probably just me being an anxious mess. I think she's okay. But I like to panic about things, and the thing to panic about right now is my cat. It's just the thing that we do. But yeah, she's in my lap, so I'm gonna be sitting a little weird and wiggling a bit more than normal. Because she's a monster. And I love her. Hey, listen. I love you. And I need you to know that I love you. Okay? Right? Like, and it's not even like any, like, it's not like the telltale signs that a lot of cats get when they're, like, sick or anything. Plus, she's also just an anomaly when it comes to behaviors anyway. So, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, are you doing this because of, like, the stroke that you had last year, so you just need a little more sleep? Or are you doing it because I'm acting funny, or are you actually not feeling well? So we'll figure it out. Nate, hello and welcome! Long time no see, my friend. How are you doing? So yeah, like I said, I'm just freaking out a little bit about that, and I think it's just because my stress levels have been really, really high for the last 2 weeks, and so I'm just clinging to anything and seeing something odd, and I'm like, oh no, this is different! Ah! But she seems to be doing okay, so this will just make me feel better. She sits here with me for a little bit until I can no longer have her in my lap. Plan for today. Play more OXENFREE. Cause I'm in it. I'm here for it. I'm trying to determine, like, what I'm gonna do. Cause like I said, I am very tired today. We are getting through it, buddy. It's been kind of a shit couple of weeks, but we're making it through. We're being nice to ourselves. I'm giving myself the time that I need to take care of myself in any and all capacity. So we're doing all right given the circumstances. Which leads back to what I was just about to say. I am very tired today. I don't know if I'm gonna be up to stream this evening. It is normally an indie Friday, so it'd just be us playing a bunch of random indie horror games. And I've not prepared for that at all. So like I said, I've been very busy and very stressed out this week. So we might just play OXENFREE for a little bit longer. I don't know how much longer. But we might just play Oxenfree for a little longer and forego the evening stream. Excuse me. Or we might play Oxenfree for a little longer and do an indie stream tonight, depending on how I feel. I don't know. Either way, I think we're gonna play Oxenfree for a little longer than the scheduled 2 hours that I have. Speaking... I forgot to do... hit a button on my phone. It's fine. Forgot to send out a going live tweet. This is fine. I can do it right now. So yeah, like I said, we'll play Oxenfree for a little longer than what we usually do on Fridays. And we'll see what I end up wanting to do for this evening. I don't know. I want to stream, and I want to do, like, a bunch of indie games, but I just don't know that I have the energy for it today. So, worst comes to worst, we might just do something in the Discord. We might just hang out. It might just turn into a Friend Friday, but again, that's if I have the energy for it. But... oh, please. Sorry, I usually do this during the, like, getting ready screen and I forgot. But that's fine, we can do it now. But how's everyone else doing? How are y'all? How are things? Also, we're gonna do the cozy thing. Don't you worry. We're gonna do the cozy thing. It's gonna be great. I'm very excited. I should probably put my Twitch link with this tweet that I'm sending out. There we go. Alright. Excuse me, my goodness. Is this is this in Dark Souls 2? Did you find the chicken wing? Right? Yeah, no, we're gonna do whatever ends up working for us, stars. I appreciate the fact that y'all are as lovely and understanding as you are. I would be shocked if you weren't, but I still just need to say thanks. You're appreciated. And we love the fact that everyone here is just very lovely all of the time. Alright. Hold on a second before we do this. I need to have up my sound controls. I also need to sit up a bit more, but Lamia is going to slip under the desk if I am not careful. Would you like to be covered up by the blanket? No, but then my legs are cold. Also, congrats on your Dark Souls 2 chicken wing. Are you fine with this, Lamia? Okay. Before we get started... Grip it and rip it. And let's go ahead and do this. We just got to the fort.
Oh,
Fort Milner?
No. Don't be locked. Come on.
Can't go back now?
We didn't really need to go back anyway, right?
Unless there's no way out, then yes, we might have.
Yeah, we'll find a way out.
We got in through some other door, so we should be fine, hypothetically speaking. Speaking of which, she dated Michael? Is that right?
Yes, quite annoyingly.
I mean, was he the type of guy that would go for that, like, sort of thing? I'm just trying to picture...
Well, you know, you'd have to ask him what he was into, I guess.
I mean, just from what I've heard of him, like that one story about the cops just straight buying him a beer? Just what would a guy like that see in her? Like, at least at the start, there must have been something, right?
Look, Jonas. Girls go for assholes and guys go for psychos for the same stupid reason.
Oh no.
They're interesting. For a while. But that crap gets old fast.
Huh. Okay. It's just, interesting, I guess, to me.
Oh, are you, like, into her?
No, not at all. Too bitter.
Alright. I guess I'll believe you. For now.
You can go
For
ahead and
now.
believe me for always on this one.
Okay. Yeah, it was Ren, the blonde kid, who got high. He likes Nona. Clarissa sucks. We hate her. Jonas is... I am indifferent to Jonas. I'm also indifferent to Ren. And shit's wacky.
Sleeping here?
I'm trying not to.
We got radio
Why would the
monsters.
construction guys leave the bed frames? Seems kinda... I don't know. Kinda morbid.
If they would have ever finished the museum, it would have been for show. It would have felt more authentic or whatever, but it doesn't matter now. Stuff like
Vines.
this, I always thought it was pretty. Kind of like, I don't know, kind of like the buildings being reclaimed by the trees and the soot and the soil, you know?
Well, right now it just looks like scary tentacles, so...
In the daytime, this is pretty much skater mecca.
I can tell.
It's got a padlock. You can't pick this one,
Excuse
can
me.
you?
No, we'd need like bolt cutters or something.
Trying to think of what...
Or the code.
Assuming that it's still powered up? We did find Nona, and we told her to...
Hey, that's... Clarissa!
Don't chase after her!
Don't just leave me here, Jonas! Wait!
You goober!
Jonas, what happened? Are you
Okay,
alright?
I guess we're chasing after him. We told Nona to go to the comm tower where Ren was,
Jonas, are you
but we don't know
okay
if she
in
went there, so she might be here as well. Open! Oh, I don't like how dark it is in there. And I keep expecting to, like, see my, like, reflection. Stop! Hi, radio monster. Clarissa sucks, they're haunted by Bill Cipher! This is accurate! Do you want me to... Is this what this means? I use the radio to unlock stuff? I see it on 2 separate posters on 2 different floors. That shadow looked like a person for a second. Oh.
I'm at a bridge. A sign says Charity Point.
Oh, we've heard this one before. But there's no Charity Point here? No, I want to hear that conversation. It sounded like Alex talking to someone? Also, is game volume okay for y'all? Is that Clarissa and Michael? Okay. Hi, Luna! Thank you for the contribution to the alien stream. How are you doing, friend?
Testing. Okay. I can't hear anything outside at all, but luckily this radio thing's working. Look, whatever. Clarissa's not in here, and it's just a room, so, like, riddle me that, first of all, and then second of all, I can't get out.
The door opened like a second ago. Can't you... Are you sure you're just not turning the knob?
Nymeria 3?
Hello? Are you... Look, is someone there?
Don't let Jonas talk to his mom.
When
Do what?
Jonas gets on your case about his mom, just do what you feel is best, okay?
What is this?
What is this?
I'm glad you're
What
doing
does this
well.
mean? Who are you?
We're also excited for OXENFREE. It's weird.
I can't hear anything outside at all, but there's just a really weird lock here. Does anything...
Okay, what just happened? Cause that sucked.
Are you okay? A little shaken up?
Well, we blew past nap time a while ago, but yeah, I'm actually better than fine.
So, okay, hold on. I'm gonna pause real quick for a second, so that I can talk. It's weird that we keep being able to choose the dialogue for, I'm gonna call him Shadow Alex, for lack of a better description at the moment, right? Because we had that happen at the pond when we were kicking the ball around, and now we've had it again here in the mirror. So I wonder if those decisions kind of make certain options or certain scenarios play out depending on what I've told or what Shadow Alex has said. I don't know. Spitballing, thinking out loud. Okay, Jonas, shall we look around
here's
first?
The code for the padlock. 3418. It's on a list of... Huh. They call codes cookies. Is that slang or something?
I don't know, but we got the combo, so great. Hey, did you see that? In the mirror? The reflection was weird.
Don't think I'm nuts or anything, but my reflection kind of gave me, like, fatherly advice that made absolutely no sense when you were stuck just now. So...
Wait, seriously? I'm gonna take a picture, see if the flash will make something happen.
Jonas, please.
Okay. Make it snappy. Get it?
Alex,
I'm choosing not to
please.
get it.
Okay, should we leave? Now is always the time. Always the time. Okay, use the padlock.
418, and voila.
What was that?
What?
Maybe it wasn't anything.
Oh, it was definitely
I'm just gonna
something.
Pretend it didn't happen, so let's just carry on.
But what if I can tune into it? But listen, Jonas. This hasn't worked so far, but you know, maybe one day. Okay, yeah, it's not doing nothing. Let's go. It's go time. Ah! Picture, please. Let me just scream nonstop about all the
To go out
spooky.
in that. So actually,
Oops.
before we press on, I've had to go pee for like a while now. So since we're stuck anyway, I thought.
Oh my god, go in the corner then.
I'm sorry. I know this is like way too much too soon for us right now, but I'm gonna totally explode.
Go pee. It's
I'll force it
important.
out fast.
I cannot at all believe you right now.
Don't look at me.
I'm not. My back is to you.
Be quieter. It's like louder than the rainstorm.
I know the acoustics are really carrying it. Sorry.
Are you good? Okay. Let's not go there ever. We will never walk there. That's not a corner either. Can I... The window option showed up for a second, and now it's gone. Jonas is not a smart animal. Unless you're Opal. I love Opal. So much. Can I go through here? Hey. There we go. There we go.
Clarissa! Okay, that was definitely her. What is she? Is this just like a game to her or something?
Clarissa, come back. We came to help you. Don't. Ugh.
You know, it just occurred to me she could also be having like a Ren episode. A Renisode.
Let's
Possessed or whatever
never
you
call
wanna
it that
call
ever again.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of obvious that that's what's probably happening, isn't it?
It's not.
Wasn't
It's not
it
what's
in the house
happening
on
to
the
her.
haunted hill where that possessed guy walked into a vat of blood?
I really don't know.
It's a classic.
Is this... God, is this going out, or... Wait, I can hear myself, that's not...
Man, maybe she
God,
didn't
does
see us.
anybody-
I don't know, but whatever. She still has a radio, so we still gotta get to her.
That's a terrible noise.
Every individual it is maintained is enveloped in a radium invisible to the carnal eye and
Opal
only
is ridiculous.
visible to those accustomed to it.
Okay, whatever that means. Great. Let's... Can I go through here? You won't let me interact with that door. So I guess we'll go in here. Oh my god, sorry. I have the hiccups. Real bad.
The handprints are a macabre touch.
Do you know who did that? Please
Like-
tell me it's like a known thing teenagers here do or something.
It's probably like children. They have such little hands.
Yeah, little kids just making a mess of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
What was that? You heard that, right?
Something just fell. Relax. I'm sure a bird landed on a piece of loose masonry or something.
Probably.
Hi, Smiley. I'm not gonna start over. Maybe you should just go back in
It's not
time a
opening.
little bit.
Clarissa!
Consider.
Man, when we catch
Okay.
up, I'm gonna
How
tell
are you doing, friend? How's it
It's gonna
going?
be limb from limb. It's gonna be like she wasn't wearing seatbelts when I'm finished with her. God.
Jeez,
Okay,
Alex.
all right, I know, she's a hoot. We can't leave until she shows us where that radio is. I know
You're
it's
having a
annoying,
zoomy
but
day
it's our only
today?
hope
You
for getting
have-
us out of here so far.
All of my energy then. I am beat. We are extremely tired today. But we're taking it easy. And we are being nice to ourselves. And it's great. Careful, you're gonna toot. You strain too much, you're gonna toot. And we broke the light.
High in the
Beautiful.
Cascade Mountains of Washington, the Navy opens the world's largest radio transmitter. Its 1 million watts can flash a message around the world in a tenth of a second. Hey kids, wanna play a game?
What is it doing?
Hangman?
Be sharp and listen, mister. This is
Okay.
going to tell the classification board a lot about what can be expected of you in the future. How many questions will you be able to get in the allotted time?
Not enough.
Like a test?
Hey, why are we being tested? What did we do?
I mean, this
Here's
appears to be a
simple one to
classroom.
start, so don't hold your breath. What is the name of the school you are standing in?
School
10.
we're standing in. Isn't this
9.
like a classroom?
8.
I thought it was just like a fort.
7. 6.
This. The map says
I don't know if
nothing
that's
about what
right.
school this is.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
will. It's
stuff,
just country
Charlie.
Oh,
songs,
God,
too.
You're
good.
swinging. It all goes into your final rating. You want to get a good rating, don't you?
I just don't want to die.
You want to be a good soldier?
Why the hell would we want to be a good soldier?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. If that's what you
We
want.
just have to play along,
Excellent.
Jonas.
Oh, Jesus. What is going
Uh,
on?
I feel like I'm stuck
Oh,
on
I
a tilted
hate
world.
this. My controls are backwards now.
Just keep the pointer on the button. Question 2. What did the communications officers at Fort Milner call codes?
Cookies! It was cookies! I remember that!
You call codes cookies?
There. Now you're cooking. Coded radio transmitters have an important
Look,
job.
I'm doing a good
and you
job.
wouldn't want them to be unqualified.
Okay, look. Is this a trick? Is whatever I'm gonna say gonna bite me in the ass no matter what? Because if that's the case, then...
Watch your language, young lady. There's no room for sass in the armed forces.
Whatever.
We are an island race.
Uh,
And through all our times, the sea has ruled our breaks.
Alright, if I'm answering the questions, you can leave Jonas out of it, okay?
One last round and you've
at this
cleared
point,
your
I'm just gonna be
exam.
sassy with the creatures.
How many officers died in the sinking of the USS Kanaloa?
I have no idea.
10,
The other ships, and how we
9,
to sail them,
Above all
8,
victories, beyond all loss.
7,
in spite of changing values of
6.
the changing world.
Jonas's eyes have gone red. 53? I don't know. I have no idea.
You're off, Bob. That's not gonna cut it. 97 brave men and women died on the USS Kanaloa. 85 officers, 12 passengers.
I don't think Jonas is okay.
It all adds up to another fact for the classification board.
That was bad sound.
Just another fact among many.
I didn't need to get that far.
Do you want to sit down, Jonas?
You misfits, there's all in my now obsessed. I am. I didn't need to get that far.
Just under fire. Now, in making an example of you,
You misfits, there's all in my
Orderly.
now obsessed.
Jonas just had a real good pee and now he needs to take a nap. I understand. There we go. Where is the next one? There. This is fine. This is fine. Hey Jonas, you cool?
The United States submarine Kanaloa is shown for the first time in Pacific waters patrolling for the enemy. Pacific waters patrolling for the enemy. Through the periscope, the commander looks out over the ocean's surface. Kanaloa was lost today, lost at sea, near...
Is this...
I don't know that
Are
they're...
you the dead
I don't know that that's
officers
right, but...
that sunk on the Kanaloa?
We are sunken.
What do you want?
For the first time.
Time. Just
Time.
What? That was not fun.
Just take it slow and easy.
Always spooky audio.
just
Hi,
had-
Ami.
An experience.
I thought that said an
Yes.
explosion
Very
for a
good.
second.
This has been United News. Thank you for listening.
Okay,
This is just unbelievable.
can we not go through this door?
Anyone?
Hey.
Can anyone just...
That's gotta be Clarissa. Let's get her and get out of here.
Probably
Or
can't
use
go
the
through that
radio
door
and get
because
outta here,
I
but
fucked up the answers.
Let's just get out of here.
But Jonas, we have to go save Buttface Clarissa. But Jonas, I can't go through the door. How's it going, Emmy? How are you doing? There's a window up there. Maybe I can throw Jonas up there. I'm walking into a chair. I cannot go through there. Okay. Hey, game. Where would you like for me to go? Hey, Jonas. Hey, buddy. I am crawling through you. Nice. Oh, now I can interact with the door. I just left too soon. Go through the door, Alex. Alex, listen. Ma'am?
Clarice is asleep right now. Be still so as not to wake her.
She's cracking up.
Great.
I will not be still. I am going to come get you, whether you like it or not. Whether I like it or not.
Cross your fingers. Clarissa.
Oh, well, look at this. The super twins decided to grace me with their presence. I thought
Yeah,
maybe I wasn't good enough for a house call, Doctor.
Are you alright?
Hold on.
I mean, yeah. Why? Yeah, sure, my hair might be a little weird, but there's not a lot I can do about that.
You just sounded really distressed, that's all.
Well, I mean...
I also need to
don't
go
know.
put Lami on the
Fine
couch
now,
because she is too
so-
heavy.
Alright, where's this famous radio?
I don't know, I can't get it to do anything I want.
Alex, wanna take a look at this?
Okay. I'm gonna pause real quick so I can dump Lamia on the couch. You get to steal my blanket, little bean. How exciting is that? Actually, no. You know what? You don't get to steal my blanket. Be content, right there. Also, it's my The Cure shirt. It's my It's Friday, I'm in Love shirt. All the little diagrams are the lyrics to the song It's Friday, I'm in Love. That's what my shirt is. It's a good shirt. I love The Cure. My favorite band. Oh, now my chair is like far too straight. Okay, there we go. I want to sit up, but I don't want to sit up completely. You can't make me.
Yeah, no, this is like a low frequency thing. It's just meant for the bass. It won't. I don't think it can beam out.
That's fine though, because there.
Officers who know your problems full and well will give you a friendly and sympathetic hearing.
Who is that?
Cross your fingers.
Oh God!
Jonas, wait. We're in another. I got looped again.
Crap.
We love The Cure here.
Just keep me in the loop. I didn't mean to say that.
Yes, you did.
Clarissa! Is there anything?
Oh
Can we
fuck!
cut her down with some?
Holy crap.
What is it? Is something wrong?
Clarissa might be dead.
Look, Clarissa might be dead in there.
What? Why? We just heard her. Look, are you feeling
I'm not nutso, Jonas. We've done this. We've gone through this door and seen Clarissa twice now, and once she was hanged, and we're about to do it a third time.
Okay, alright, I'm sorry, I believe that. You believe this, so alright, just keep me posted, I guess, on how that develops.
I appreciate the fact that, like, Jonas, while having a hard time wrapping his head around the situation, doesn't necessarily, like, constantly question me.
I swore she was in here.
Better gone than dead.
Oh, maybe this was the thing, the radio she was using. If we can get it to, I mean, she got it to kind of work, so...
Yeah, it only broadcasts within a short space. It's not going to do what we need it to.
Really? How do you know? Clarissa.
Whoa, whoa, ma'am, whoa, ma'am!
Clarissa, it's us. It's Alex. Are you okay?
Alex, don't worry.
She's like...
Never forget
She's
that
like
I am an
Remy's.
American.
Clarissa, will you wake up?
Responsible.
There will be other ships and other souls to sail them.
Well,
Oh my god! Why would would she do that? Why would she do that? We're not. It's not like we're.
She was like possessed. I just, this is, Jonas, this is so horrible.
It could be worse.
I don't.
It could be a character we liked.
We should get to the others. I can't even imagine telling them, or how to tell them. I mean.
Oh, I meant to click on one of those and then didn't.
Figure it out. This is unbelievable.
Oh boy! We're gonna get down there and her body's gonna be gone. Well... Hey, Clarissa?
Wow.
Her body's
there's
gone.
No way she got up from that, right? There's no way.
Wait, she's, I can't think of the appropriate word here.
Dead? The word is dead. She should be dead, Alex. I watched her. There was no breaking that fall, so how'd she walk away? This isn't possible, because unless she's built...
did just go through a, sort of a temporal anomaly, a time thing. Maybe it's screwed with what happened?
Well, regardless, good news.
Unless she's a zombie.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe she did a tuck and roll. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Look, I know I said I hated Clarissa, but I didn't want her to fucking die.
Anything?
Alright, back to the comm tower. Maybe possession grants a bonus default. That tracks. This sounds about right. Also, honestly, we get there and she left. Classic Clarissa. Please. Oh my goodness. Just wanted to make sure Lamia was still on the couch over there. She is.
May. Oh, crap. This isn't. Rin, this is just coming out of the speakers on the roof thing. It's not.
Good! Nona went to the con tower!
Is this what I sound like?
Well, now we know where the little Muppets are.
To listen to me all day?
Let's huddle up, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Rock! Rock, 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 rock. Rock.
The island is famously named after Colonel Caleb Edwards for his glorious and triumphant slaughtering of countless families during one of the great ethnic cleansings of the 20th century.
Yikes!
For removal of an ignorant people to make space for destined holders is a time-honored tradition in our still young country. And you will be a part of that heritage, Alex. Do not resist. It will be over soon.
So there were indigenous folks on this island and we came in and absolutely slaughtered them. And that's why the island's haunted.
What would today be considered a blast and fallout shelter was commissioned and built in 1946.
I see.
The above-ground hub leads to a bunker 60 feet beneath the Earth's surface, molded with layers of poured concrete and packed earth. The lead blast door will only unlock through use of the call and response system, a setup devised by Lieutenant Commander Matthew Feinberg to prevent tampering. If the Catbird Station, a small watch point in Edwards Forest, radios in a decoded attack, the shelter door will automatically open, triggering an alarm and compulsory evacuation.
Okay. So I'm assuming it can't be opened now. We can't even interact with it now. I think I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, I've gone the wrong way. That's fine. This is fine. I just didn't want to go say hi to Ren and Nona. That's all. Oh no, I need to go see go see Ren and Nona. Nona can't be alone with Ren. He's an absolute goob. It ain't fine. Hardin Tower, let's go. That's where we're going, right? That's the comm tower, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah! I know what's happening. We know what's going on.
Hey! Hey! I saw you
Dick
guys going up
Hardin.
the tower. The Dick Tower.
I think
The
you mean
Dick-
Hardin Tower.
Please don't ruin that for me. It's all I have left.
Anything good to report?
The Dick
Besides that
Tower.
you're still alive, which I'm glad. You know, don't get me wrong.
Thanks. Yes, I am still alive, but, no. Other than that, no.
Any luck contacting somebody?
Nope. No luck to speak of. And honestly, I thought this week was gonna be a big karma dump. I found like 50...
Well, we're all here now. Well, I mean,
I
except
don't care,
Clarissa,
Ren.
But we're mostly all here, and we'll come up with something.
Yeah, let's not
I
mention
hope so.
Clarissa
Stupid
yeeting herself out
radio's
of a
been-
window.
What my therapist would call a negative reinforcer. Just won't work right. I'm so glad I took that second brownie.
What?
It's kind of, you know, it's just about...
Ren, we need you sober right now. We need you capable. How could you be so stupid?
Wait, you're not messing with us? You seriously took another one?
It was like half of one, all right? It's just to level me out. It'll bring me back up. That's what it does. If you're down...
You better pray to whatever God scares you the most. It does level you out, because if this screws us up, you're on summary probation.
Don't say that. That's not nice.
Oh, God.
Ren, you're not nice. That's not the button I wanted. Ren, we're in high school. You're an idiot. Get out of here. It's true. Nona is not alone with
This
Ren.
thing doesn't
She is,
work.
however, alone up high.
I'm getting something, but it's like, I don't know.
Hey, Nona. Night's still going, huh?
We heard you on the speaker system. You got that working?
That's about all I got working. Sorry I was like weird earlier. But hey, have you figured out what's going on yet? You have to know something. You've been like out
Look,
there.
we tuned into something in the cave, and it was like Gabriel sounded the trumpet. Just everything went terrible.
And, ghosts.
Yes.
It's
I
not-
got it. This is
I
great.
mean,
This is
it
perfect.
is,
I know
but it's-
exactly what to do.
Do you?
Yeah, totally. It's Maggie Adler.
Maggie Adler.
Yeah, she has a boat. Had a boat. I mean, the boat's still here, but...
Her house, manor, or whatever it is behind a huge gate. You can see it coming up here from Main Street.
No, I know, but the keys to it are here, somewhat readily available. My sister, Allie, worked at the parks office in town.
Excuse you?
She had to deliver that old woman her mail every day. I know that they have the key.
Okay, so
We have to break
No,
into
no,
the
we are
parks
not.
office?
We are not gonna go with the plan. The first plan put forth by the group's resident Burnout.
Hey, come on. I'm not a burnout. Okay, so I ate like 2 brownies.
Well, I mean, Jonas kind of does have a point here. Like, do you know there's a boat, or is this like when you knew the teachers kept liquor in the lounge?
Come on. I was like 13 when I thought they all got drunk at lunch. This is a real thing. There's a boat at her dock.
Ren, understand it is completely your fault that we're in this to begin with.
What?
And now you want us to trust you when things are really bad?
Jonas, you know we tuned into that thing. We kicked the door open to whatever this is.
Oh, give me a break. This night is like it's like a giant, ugly misery stew that Ren's clearly been the chef of.
Jonas.
What does that even mean?
guys, come on.
It should be obvious to even the cheap seats that you're the only new weirdo who throws this whole social harmony thing we got going
Oh my
on
god,
away.
Ren, stop!
I mean, we all grew up with each other.
Guys, you know there's no television cameras here, right? Take the energy down a notch.
Alex, I am not putting my life in his hands.
Oh
This whole thing
my
has
god,
been a
both of
complete
you.
joke to this guy. I can't believe you're even kind of defending him.
Jonas.
The stories I heard about this guy, he's a maniac, okay? He's gonna trash our only legitimate means of getting out of here if you buy into this crap.
Legitimate means? What do we even
Guys, stop it. Stop. The collective neuroses call a truce, okay?
Yes, please.
Look, I don't care what Caveman Jonas says. There
What
is
is
a
that?
boat. at Maggie Adler's house. And the
Oh,
key
boy.
to her house is back on Main Street.
And the backup plan for when this thing fails spectacularly is 2 of us have to stay here by the semi-functioning walkie-talkie.
Fine by me. Alex has the radio. Are you okay to go into town? Not that you wouldn't be okay.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, I'm fine. Whatever, I'm ready.
You shouldn't go alone. We don't need like 3 of us up here.
Yeah, I'll totally go. It's my, like, brilliant
No.
idea or whatever.
Are you kidding? Your food is gonna start kicking in any second. Beyond that, you're a completely unreliable basket case.
I am not a basket case.
Just shut up, both of you.
Sorry.
Okay, keeping in mind who you've been able to depend on the whole night.
Yes, keeping in mind who you're tired of.
Keeping in mind who's taller, who do you want coming with you?
Nona, wanna come with me?
What?
Really?
I mean, I guess.
Why
This
are you
isn't-
making me shack up with
It's
this guy?
my friggin'
We've
plan.
been together the entire
It's only
night.
my idea.
Why
Be
is it-
quiet, both of you.
Oh my god.
Puppies, you're not gonna die if I
We're
go to the
definitely
grocery
gonna
store
come
for
back
10
and one of
minutes.
them is gonna
This
push
is a
the other
total
off the
punt,
tower. But
Alex.
you know
Yeah,
what? That's a
this is
problem we'll
fine. This'll
deal
be
with
a
when we
good-
get back.
If you don't want to take sides, don't take sides. But no, nobody's happy with this.
Hey, Nona's happy. You're happy, right?
Sure.
Oh, I've done this so bad. I just wanted them to shut up. Also, what is this? I found 6 of 12 anomalies. Are those the rocks that I have been finding? Jonas?
I still need you, Jonas, okay? So keep your knee pads on, mentally speaking.
I'll see you when you get back, Alex.
I guess I should probably check in with Ren. I need them both to cool the fuck down and stop being the way that they are.
We're still friends, Ren. If Missy's 6th grade birthday party couldn't split us up, this certainly won't.
Good luck with the thing, Alex.
Yep, they're all mad. Whatever! Whatever! They need to get over their issues right now. Now is not the time to be getting mad at everyone over everything. I mean, they're still in high school, right? So, like, 18 or younger, this tracks. This behavior tracks. Gotta protect your mental knees. Keep those mental knee pads on. Yeah! They're babies! Or I guess Alex was, I mean, they're still babies, but Alex was talking about going to just, like, getting ready for college, so I assume they're all, like, 18, thereabouts. They might have just graduated. They're children, though. They are actual children. Hey, Nona? Hey, Nona, why'd you stop? Okay, Nona, I'm gonna go down. You're coming with, right? There she goes. Okay. Just our sweet idiot babies. It's fine. God, I don't miss being this age. Honestly. Alright. Let's go. We are heading towards the front of the island. Which, as I say that, doesn't make much sense, but that's fine. I understand what I mean.
I do remember you from Mr. Tuttle's class. You sit in the, back, behind Jake. I just forgot. I'm sorry.
Whoa!
Hey, it's nothing to be sorry about. I don't talk all that much, so...
Emmy, thank you for the contribution. Y'all are halfway
I'm also
through
just, like, never there. It's a loophole.
that dang
where-
challenge.
I don't know if you know this, but if you ditch, you get a detention, and if you don't go to that, you get suspended. But suspensions are like paid
What's over here,
vacation.
though?
You can just do your work over.
Smiley, thank you as well.
Oh, wait, if you don't really go to, like, class, what are you doing instead all day?
Jenny, the TA, she lets me practice ballet in her studio. So that, really. Oh, and
What's this?
don't tell anyone, But my birthday's in 3 days, and I'm having a thing, and you're invited. I think Clarissa's out of town, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Why not tell anyone?
We could have made this more of a, you know, a birthday thing instead of just a beach bash or whatever.
I don't even know why I mentioned it now, really.
Because we're friends?
I was thinking about, well, I'm worried about Clarissa, and, well, I was thinking about my last birthday when, you know... Actually, sorry, never mind. This has nothing to do with anything.
Excuse me.
I'm just in a fog right now.
Say what you want to say.
Come on, I want to hear this. It was last year, your birthday. Go.
Jess, this was when Nicole was in her car accident, and so of course we cancel and go visit her, and I'm not gonna pout about that. It's common decency, it's fine. But
it still
afterwards,
sucks.
After this totally emotionally draining night, Clarissa still came over and surprised me with this huge cake. And
So Clarissa
we
is
stayed up
capable
and
of being
watched all
sweet.
my favorite movies, and she didn't have to do that.
That's sweet, actually.
Anyways, my birthday's in 3 days, and I just hope she's okay. That's all.
We'll find her.
No. We're not leaving without her.
Yeah, I know.
I never said we'd find her alive, but we'll find her.
This is the Sentry, sculpted by Lieutenant Peter Hasborough. It was installed here in 1979 to remind all who view it of Fort Miller.
Oh, no, wait, I'm
As a
listening.
beacon of harbor defense. Though the base would eventually become acclaimed as the birthplace of many radio innovations during World War II, and until its deactivation would be known more for its schooling and the tragic sinking of the USS Kanaloa, the fort's spirit will always be that of the watchful sentry. Steady, protective, and ever vigilant of enemies both foreign and domestic.
Uh-huh.
This is the Sentry.
Okay. Listen. Right? Yeah, no, this just, like, reaffirms that Clarissa is still a bitch because she chooses not to be nice, and Nona is the sweet bean, and we have to protect her. We love Nona here. Okay, there's the bunker that we saw. I think I'm gonna take a slightly longer... Well, I guess this isn't really a longer way, is it? No, this is the way that we need to go. Because we couldn't go down this way. Okay, this is fine. We're going the right way. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. Alright. Enjoy the food. The heating up of food. That's the Adler estate. Also, I can do a hydrate. Grab my cup. Thank you, Emmy. Reminder, everyone in chat, if you haven't drank any water recently, drink some water. Hydrate with me. Nom 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 nom. Nom nom nom. Rock. No, wait.
How many of you are there?
That's me. That's me speaking. That's Alex.
How many of you are there?
Can't understand. That's fine. Also, Nona's run is very good. Look at her go. I love you, Nona. There's a lighthouse. Let's go to the cliffs. This is where I'm going, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Also, I found like half of the anomalies. Great.
This data command annex, as it had been
I don't like this sound.
was used during the base's
wrong
early
button.
years as the communication nerve center for outside military installations. It was also the primary office of Marianne Bozek, a civilian who developed communications protection through the invention of the famed WAL system. A type of radio frequency identification, WAL standing for Wave Assisted Lock, assigned each person who was stationed at Fort Milner a call sign through which they could use their portable two-wave radios to unlock prescribed doors and gates. Though the mechanics are considered outmoded today, the island still uses this security method to honor its rich history.
Is there... Hold on. It goes green when I'm next to it, but then it went purple?
This data command...
And I'm curious if I can do anything with that. Or if I have to find a call sign that can open it. And I think it's I have to find something to open it. Stars, thank you for the contribution to the Alien stream as well. I'm very excited about that. We could go to town, and that's down to the beach, which I don't want to go to. So let's go to town. Let's go! I guess I should probably start looking at mods for that stream. Oh.
So,
Excuse
it's the
me.
Parks and Facilities building. That's down a bit, right? If I'm remembering the right building, I don't think it's far.
Yeah, we're close.
Excuse me. Sorry, I just keep watching Nona run, and it's very good. Same though. For the longest.
What are you... How did she get up there? What are you doing?
Wait, where is she?
Are you...
Oh!
Clarissa! What? Alex! Christ, what's wrong with her? Clarissa, can you hear me? Clarissa, wake up.
Wait,
Fight
Nona,
them off.
stop.
Take control of yourself. Hang in there, baby.
Alex, please, can you just... I don't know what you can do, but can you just do something? Please, just try anything. Like, Clarissa!
I can... I'll try. Okay, I'll try.
Clarissa, can you hear me?
She's in her own little world right now, Nona. It's
Come
fine.
on, just please try and get her down. Ellie,
I am
please
trying,
help.
Nona!
Clarissa,
You try to
come down.
find the right channel.
She just looks awful.
Over here?
You think you can control me?
Clarissa.
What? No, I'm not trying to...
You're not trying. You're not trying at all.
You haven't changed. Not a bit. But you're a fine girl.
We're not trying? What about you? What have you done? You get stuck in Milner. You ask for our help.
What have I done? I've sacrificed. I've made immense, bottomless sacrifices.
When you're off, the little machine has no more heart than a brain.
No more heart.
Whoa!
Is she okay? Or...
She's... I think so. Oh, Clarissa,
Her
are you
legs
okay?
went a little limp.
You scared the crap out of us.
You good?
I'm fine.
Okay. Are you sure? 'Cause that didn't look great.
Back to normal, I hope?
Back to normal? What does that even... How did I get here?
You don't remember how you got here?
We're not gonna mention the dead
Tiny
thing.
disturbances or something, and I think that's what's been teleporting people around, so... And we just had one.
Time disturbances.
So you're just blank.
No, I remember something. I remember you with that radio. And I remember feeling like you were the reason all of this was happening.
Oh!
Wait, it's Clarissa's turn already?
Yeah, it's my turn. What do you mean it's Clarissa's turn already? I haven't even asked one question. Everyone's asking me. I get to do the asking now.
Oh, guys, okay, I know you think we're still playing Truth or Slap or whatever, but this isn't real, so...
Well, wait. Clarissa hasn't gotten a chance to ask something yet, so...
Yeah, and you, of all people, should know what my question is going to be, because I'm not going to waste it.
Oh boy.
Alex, what did you do? Explain why me and my best friend and your idiot best...
Look, when we went into the cave, we found a thing, and I used the radio to somehow feed in and...
Oh!
It jump-started everything.
I don't know.
But I mean, come on.
I missed
Who
what
knew
happened.
this would
Oh
happen?
no.
We thought it was a weird trick of light or something.
Jonas, now you're seeing who you're stuck to until graduation.
Clarissa, seriously, I can vouch for this. This isn't her
It
fault.
has to be her fault. Of course it's her fault.
Clarissa, fuck
There's
off.
no other way this story goes.
Why? Why does it have to be my fault?
Why does it have to be your fault? Are you kidding me?
No, come on, Clarissa. Let's not do this right
You're
now.
gonna learn, Jonas. I swear to God. The town looks at her like she has a red letter tattooed on her frickin' forehead.
Clarissa.
And the giant, lit up Christmas tree reason why is that Michael is dead because of her. Because of her.
Like, it would take a very sick person to see it that way, and I would
Wow,
love to hear the
wait.
explanation.
Wow, wait.
Michael was gonna leave town. He was free. He was out of here until this one convinced him to take her swimming for one last God knows what. And he drowned. He drowned in Horn Lake while this one could barely flap her arms.
Clarissa.
You weren't there. No one was there, so how the hell would you know?
Everyone knows. Everyone knows the freak sister who let her brother die while she clung scared to the bow line.
Okay, I'm sorry, but enough.
Yikes!
Clarissa, that's enough. It's too
Welcome
much
in,
right
Bono.
now.
How are you
I
doing,
can't-
friend?
I can't believe... Ugh.
She's...
Seriously.
Nona, just don't think of me like...
I don't... Just... Alex, this is none of my business, okay? None. But we came here to do a thing, and that thing is gonna get us home. So, let's get home.
No.
Clarissa, what are you...
All the OXENFREE.
Hey.
Whoa.
Man, do you ever get deja vu? Jeez,
That
I just got a serious
sucked
thing with
hard.
goosebumps, One. Boy.
I guess you don't remember, like, anything that just happened, right?
All the more reason I
To
hate
what
Clarissa.
anything are you referring?
Even if it wasn't real.
Clarissa being possessed and shrieking at me would probably be the big kahuna here.
I sorta can picture Clarissa being like weird or something, but I don't know, it's kind of a blur to be honest. Okay, well, the office that we gotta try to get into is like right there. So let's try and whatever our way in.
Woof. Okay. Well, I hope you can get some good rest, Bono.
We're gonna try to get into the office thing, right? To get the key?
Yeah, we're gonna try, Nona. Listen. We're working on it.
This isn't budging.
I don't know about that. I think we can just bust our way through, honestly. The lock looks pretty worn.
Bust our way through? What is that supposed to mean?
Just kick the door in. Just kick the door in. Let's go. Good job, ladies. Cross your fingers.
Cross your fingers and hold your thumbs.
Gotta look at all the
To
things.
sign up for the aquatics program, please register at the front desk.
Okay. Has that happened before?
Oh yeah, I feel like we're like a call-in show or something for them.
Nice.
If Clarissa were here, I would definitely throw her through the door.
It's another pocket radio, I think, but it's like there's way more stations on the dial.
Ooh, neato.
Can we go?
Here's
We
another
can go
one.
super
It says
low.
They're wall radios? Wave-assisted lock? Whatever that means. Oh, duh. It says right here that each frequency is like a key to open the doors around here. So they're like ID tags or something. It must work.
Okay, cool, great.
Ooh, wait, here's like a... Wait. What is this?
Wait,
Personal effects of Margaret Dorothy Adler.
Why would her stuff be here? Didn't her family, or, like, hasn't her family been carting her things back to town?
No, we can start back. I just wanna... Okay, here. To
Oh. Gotta steal a boat and leave.
whom it should concern. This island and its history is a lie. Jeez, she didn't have fond memories of this place, did she?
What is that? Who's it for?
I wanted to look at the
To
mural,
whom
but
it should concern. It says right here, I have been compelled by both forces outside of my control and my own willful concern for the safety of others to conceal the many truths about Edwards Island. But now I feel any further inaction may carry a far greater risk.
Many truths.
Shh. Inside, you'll find 2 wall-equipped radios. I have commandeered the old Cardinal Station 140.1 and used it to relay clues to the nearby beacons buried throughout the area. Find these beacons and the notes within, and discover the true chronicle of the island.
Well, we gotta.
Scavenger hunt! Scavenger hunt! Scavenger hunt!
Wait. To whosoever finds the material, know that I'm discomfited in keeping it hidden and ashamed for the lies I helped preserve. But also know that I acted in what I felt were the best interests for all at the time. And truly for the interest of time itself. Margaret Adler.
Oh, Christ. This is like literally a treasure map.
Well, kinda. It's neat, but I don't know. We should probably just get home before we,
Alpha,
die.
November, Tango, India, Quebec, Uniform, Echo, eventually.
What is that? Hold on.
Everything becomes a Alpha, November, Tango, India, Quebec, Uniform, Echo, eventually.
Antique. Oh, is that because I'm standing in front of the antique shop? Wait.
Oh my
Adler
God,
letter.
The Kanaloa was destroyed by friendly fire? We've been lied to all this time.
The USS Walter Roy, destroyer escort, sunk the USS Kanaloa with friendly fire on October 25th, 1943. It had held a developmental nuclear reactor in its belly and had been sent out weeks earlier as a test of its capabilities. Relatively few even knew of its existence, which tripled the base's confusion when the submarine's communications had been cut. No one outside of a handful of us would ever know the truth. I would discover later that a weapons technician of the Walter Roy had been at Francis Salter's wedding. Salter was an engineer at the Kanaloa. I don't know why, but it's strange to me. So is there... I'm trying to think of, like, how to proceed. Is it, like, 1 note per area, potentially? Okay, I'm assuming that because we've done this in this area, that's it. No more there. Yeah, it's just noise at this point. That's fine. I want to find all this stuff, though! So maybe we'll just take the long way to the Adler estate. Maybe we just won't go to the Adler estate yet. No, I have to scooch my blanket around. Okay.
Alex, why are you wearing that jacket? It's like 75 degrees and the sun's out, you know?
At the top of the hill,
I thought you said you were gonna go swimming anyway.
Charlie, Oscar.
The sun is not out. The sun is...
Excuse me, I was listening to a thing.
Just now, but see, this is when I get punished for watching the weatherman. He said it was going to be like overcast.
He said there was a chance for clouds.
Oh, that's Michael.
We didn't bring drinks. Did we? I thought we said we'd bring drinks.
Wait, Michael?
Yeah? What is it? Did I almost step on a crab or something?
What? Why am I here?
Why? You don't want to hang out at the beach? There's stuff in town, but it's all boring knick-knack shops or whatever.
No, come on, Alex.
No, I mean, why are you here?
Why? Wait, am I supposed to be doing something right now?
You gotta get your dad.
I gotta get Dad nightcrawlers from the shop, yeah, but we're gonna do that on our way back.
Where's Jonas?
Jonas? Who's Jonas?
Is someone else coming?
Yeah, is that a friend of yours?
He's just a friend, but he was...
Well, I mean, if he's here, there's only 2 places he could be, the beach or the town.
Yeah, it's a small island. I'm sure you'll run into him.
Today turned out to be a flawless day. It really did.
Yeah, no, it did. It really did. I wanted to bring a kite, but thought you'd laugh at me.
Yeah, it really is kinda ideal, actually.
Yeah, I'm like, right about to start sweating, but I'm not.
No, it is perfect ice cream and tennis weather. That is rare.
Not me rushing off into the corner. I am concerned about where this is going to go.
It's been a spell since we did something, right? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while. How have you been? What's been going on? How's classes? How's...
Truthfully, I've
sorry. I think... Yeah, I accidentally left my phone on the ferry, because I do things like that.
Oh god, you idiot. Go get it before it leaves.
When I get back, I want to hear an Alex story.
Can't I just come with you?
I'll take 2 seconds. Think of something to tell me.
Don't leave me here with Clarissa.
So...
Do you... I guess you don't remember anything, right?
What am I meant to remember? I'm sorry, did I forget something?
Forget it. It's alright.
I'm glad we could all do stuff today. I'm glad you were cool with it, I mean. I know you guys are really close, and like, I know it can be annoying when somebody starts keeping all their time for their girlfriend or whatever. So, I think it would be cool if we could, like, continue to do things together.
It doesn't matter, Clarissa. Do what you want.
No, it does matter. It does matter. I want you to feel good about the situation, you know? I want this to be good. Michael, he loves you, like, a lot. I'm sure you know that, but he talks about you all the time. Oh, Alex did this, and Alex let the frogs out in science class. Isn't she hilarious?
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, of course.
I had to fight the skipper for it, but he didn't reckon how many squats I could do.
What's it up to, 6?
Only on burrito days. On non-burrito days, it's like 8.
So apparently you love me. Is that right?
Well, if I don't know why I got you that skateboard for your birthday.
You skate?
Not yet.
Yeah, and the no helmet part kinda sends a message, right?
I'm not one for subtlety.
Lol.
So, I actually really want a cold something, so I'm gonna run into town and get like a soda. Anybody want anything?
Nah, I'm good.
No thanks.
I'll be back.
Okay, I'm here. What's the story? I want the news. I want the Alex first edition. What's going on?
I've missed you, man. I've just missed you a lot, that's all.
Hey, come on. I've missed you too. And I know I've been hanging out with Princess, but it's a two-way thing. You can knock on my door. We live in the same house. We gotta bring back movie night and board game night. All the nights.
Yeah, sure.
And look, I know this was supposed to be our day, but I completely forgot I promised Clarissa I'd do something with her, so thanks for chaperoning. I know it's not what you had in mind, so...
What do you see in her, really?
Okay, Tuesday night, she dragged me to a comedy club for open mic, shoved me on stage, and then proceeded to curse out the entire bar when they didn't laugh at my horrible jokes. And that was a Tuesday, so that's what I see in her.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just don't get
That
it.
sounds miserable, actually.
You like Clarissa, Alex, so tell me the truth. What do you really think of
I fucking hate her.
Oh god, do what you want, man. Don't ask me for advice.
Okay, I'm taking that as endorsement.
That's not... No, that's not what I said.
That's a good-looking jacket. I should ask for it back. I like my new one. Feels like I got shoes on my arms or something.
No way, bucko.
Bucko? You haven't called me that in years.
Like, I get wanting to have your family approve of your significant other, but also it's not up to them to tell you to dump somebody. But also, don't take them telling you to do what you want as an endorsement.
Are you... Alright, are you back with me now?
I'm here.
You've been acting like a... I don't even know how to put it, like a bird, just flitting around in circles for 10 minutes. I was about to, like, slap you or scream or something. It's been not fun to watch in light of everything.
I don't know. What was I doing?
Well, let's see. First you stopped walking, then you started spinning. Slowly, like a dying top. Then you were talking about sandwiches, like in your sleep. I thought, honestly, I was watching your brain melt. Not fun.
I was?
Yeah. It was just like you totally lost all your wind. But, I mean, you seem okay now, so let's just get to the gate quick and do this thing and get home.
Adler letter.
I didn't know Maggie grew up in Maine.
There's a similar statue of a soldier in Maine where I grew up. My memory of it is, I think, part of the reason why I said yes when the Army recruited me out of college, despite my family's protestations. And my closest friend from childhood was, of course, thrilled at the possibility of my escape. I anonymously started the petition in 1975 to have this one made, after the daughter of Kanaloa crewman Francis Salter asked. I don't know why. A marker, maybe, for the hope I had, the hope I once had to help people. Can I go back here, though? Oh, but I want to go back.
First, we will eat and drink, and then we'll go and see the girls, yes?
I'm hoping that sorry, I was just looking. I was hoping that the letter that we just got was from the previous section, since they kind of cut me off there.
Hey,
guess
why
we'll find
aren't you
out.
at the tower?
This one got a little antsy.
Weird stuff was playing on the radio. That voice said I had a mother's laugh. What does that even mean? Anyway.
Are we happy?
We are happy. We got a new radio that's supposed to open doors and gates in some magical way.
Oh, thank God. I was getting nervous that you would have walked all that way and then not found anything. Seeing as how it was my advice to, do the whole thing.
How have, you two been? What am I working with here? How much leering am I gonna have to put up with?
No, I'm glad we can leave. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, don't even tiptoe in the vicinity of a joke right now. I just want to get out of here.
Well, if the radio's the thing...
It doesn't matter without Clarissa. Do I really have to point out that she's
That
not
would
here?
be really cool.
Oh, yeah, that's true, I suppose.
Yeah, should we maybe look for her? Even if the boat
No, that
thing
makes
works,
sense.
we
No, that
shouldn't
absolutely
leave
makes
her
sense, and that would be
Listen, if we have the key,
awesome.
which is apparently this radio, then let's just go to the house and see. And if it looks like we can leave that way, then we'll go on a Clarissa hunt.
All right.
Like, it made it seem like our choices kind of matched up with
right,
Adler's choices from the past. So you could
are you gonna
either...
try the gate thing?
No,
or-
I want to go elsewhere. Listen, boys.
If we're
I want to
still
go
gonna
look.
to the house. Let's just.
Where are you going? I thought aren't we sticking to the
No,
find the
they're
boat and paddle away
nope, they're
game
mad at
plan?
me. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
I was
just
trying to
on
look
your
for.
plan,
Oh
then.
my god. Okay. I had a thought and then I lost it. It's fine. I think it would be really cool if something like that was happening, or if it like helped you kind of determine
First, we will eat and drink.
like what choice you should make. I have been advised that I will need to play again. And I assume that if it's not like a new game plus, that like we loop back to the beginning so that we can make better choices. But even still, I love this.
Wow.
This is very good.
Please have a boat. Please have a boat. Please have a boat.
Yeah. I don't know if you're here for it, but we have been like, and they haven't really had any tie-in yet. But we've had to like talk to like a shadow version of ourselves, and things that like reflected us before. So those might help us
Jesus, that
determine
house is huge.
what to
That
do.
lady really knew how to live. It's
I
like
don't know.
the Chateau
Yes.
de Adler.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh my god, I keep not clicking properly. Yeah, no, I love this. I normally get kind of annoyed when games just like talk over me constantly, but it works for this. And y'all seem to be enjoying it. Like, I'm very much enjoying it, but it doesn't necessarily make for great commentary all the time, but I don't think that really matters at this
She
point.
made a lot of, what should I call these slides? They're not videos.
Silent memories?
Huh. Ren, you were right. There's like a ledger here. The Adler
Hold
family
on, I have
does own
to
the island.
scoot
And
a little
here's
bit.
a combination for a padlock to a chest is all it
Wow.
says. 29, 18, 54.
A chest? Have you seen one yet?
Let's just look. It'll probably just be more, whatever, banking files or something, but maybe we'll get lucky. There's something in here.
Looks like vacation slides or
I'm
something.
also just worried that I'm like reaching the end. I don't think I am, but I don't want to miss stuff. And I know that some of that like will have to be found in like later playthroughs. But I just want to find all the things. Just let me find all the things.
Oh, it's like a boat that needs keys. There are no oars.
And before
Yeah.
we go crazy, it wasn't with Maggie's stuff back at the office, like with the radio?
No, we looked through all of her stuff, I think.
Huh.
Sometimes when I lock myself out of my house, I can't help but just stare at the deadbolt, trying to like hypnotize it to open or something. You ever do that?
Not really. But we can try that now if you think it'll help.
No. The house has a lock on it. I mean, I've seen a lot of buildings with the call sign locks. So we probably will be doing a lot of backtracking.
It's a radio lock. A woman sure did love her antiquated security.
That is a nifty gizmo.
Okay, but also... Nothing here. Okay. Into the house we go. Look at that house.
God, you scared me.
Hey!
I thought you were like Maggie Adler's dead body or something.
Everyone, just keep your distance.
What?
Why? It's Clarissa.
Yes, dear. Why? I'm as harmless as a June bug.
Something's wrong with you. I don't know what, but I don't know. It's like you're just not on our side.
Not on your side? What, I yell at you a little bit and suddenly I'm a Russian spy now? Stuff happened, it happens, it's fine. It's barely worth mentioning now.
It was more than just yelling, okay? You were dropping atom bombs of rage on my head.
Honey, you would know if I was truly upset, okay? Ask Nona. Scott Fisher has a limp for a reason.
Look, Clarissa's here, so everyone's here now. We can just... Everyone's okay, all right? That's a good thing.
Yeah, let's just find the keys to the boat, or a phone, or whatever, and just find a way home. I promise. We can all keep talking.
I don't care what she says, just everyone keep your eye on her.
Yeah, if you're all not careful, I might put my feet on the upholstery.
Okay, we get it. Haha, carry on. Everybody find something and hope that it helps.
Distrust.
Oh, it's a draft of her letter that she left in the office. To whom it should concern. She left no... How are you doing?
Oh.
She was an odd one, I'll give her that. Yeah, I think we're all doing like that.
Oh.
No, I think it's pretty cool, actually. I could see myself doing something.
Honestly,
like
though?
The people I leave behind.
Well, leave a cheat sheet for the laziest of us, okay?
I don't like
Have you seen
Clarissa,
this?
and I don't
It's
trust
like a
her.
star map or a diagram of planets or something.
Yeah, why would she need anything like a map of the universe? It's not like she's bouncing stuff off satellites for a job.
Maybe they needed to chart signals through space or something?
Maybe. Oh, that's an attic? Thought it was like a cat's toy or something.
Wanna come up?
Yeah, sure.
Jonas, what? Jonas, what? Chest! Wait, I was looking at the wrong chest, but that's okay. No, don't go downstairs! I thought that was look at the bookshelf. No, let me go back up! No, let me go back up! Where are you? Why are you going down the stairs? Alex!
Ooh, you know what? This might be the chest that takes that combination. 29, 18, 54.
I'm also really glad that I don't have to remember
Those
the codes.
containers we saw at the town office. Oh, and like a map of the caverns. She's written here, tune into the source.
What do you think that means? She
I think
couldn't
it
have
means-
known about the ghosts, right?
Tune into the source. It's probably something about the special radios, you know?
Huh. Is this... Ah, the boat keys. Got 'em.
Great.
Perfecto.
Right? No, for real. Like, unless...
All right, we got keys for the boat.
I don't necessarily mind
Where?
having to keep track of things.
Jonas found them in a chest upstairs. So,
But it's
say
like,
thank you.
I don't know, there I
Thank
need
you.
an
You're
easy
welcome.
way to do
I
it.
was just saying it. It's not directed at you.
So
or anything.
either just
Okay.
remember it for me, or have it like easily accessible like in a note in game. Farley, that is not for you. No thank you. Sir. Like The Last of Us remembers the codes for you once you found a note that has it. Very good. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Alex. Oh, Alex. Come down here, please.
Fucking killed everyone.
I want to show you.
Clarissa, what's going on?
You're confused, aren't you?
Nona, are you okay?
She's
Wake up.
fucking dead. Clarissa's gonna kill everyone.
Ren, come on. We got a boat to catch, buddy. Where else am I supposed to go? I can't just stay in the house!
Now we imagine you're a bit confused. But don't fret. This will be the final part of your training, Alex.
Oh shit.
All training is supervised by very skilled instructors.
Stop. Just stop whatever this is.
I'm gonna put the entire house
fix my
between
friends.
she and I.
Please.
Your friends are as fine as they've ever been, okay?
There's nothing to bleed over.
You signed up for this, Alexandra. So please, I cannot bear your excuses, offspring.
How was I meant to know what the hell was gonna happen?
And yet, without understanding your footing, you still acted. Don't worry. The test is easy.
We will speak of something we see in the house.
And you will go and find it. See? As simple and good-humored as your mother's apple.
What is it with you guys and all the games? You're like dogs or children. Just what is the point?
Oof.
The point, dear, the point is that they were never games. And you can figure that out by your lonesome. Now, let's start with the softball. I spy, with my little eye, radiation.
There is, of course, a time limit here.
So,
10,
9, 8,
I don't know. I don't know.
5. Once they call official.
4. I'm sorry, child. You weren't even.
I don't know what I'm looking for.
Nona,
When you look at that,
The little
bring
one.
her back now.
Oh, I hate this.
What's done is done, as they say. If
Is
you
it the
pay
TV?
attention,
Oh!
you've noticed the television set right by my side. The little
Okay.
X-ray
Yeah, no, I
reading
get it. I
definition.
understand. Okay.
But right now, you'd be wise to think of radiation.
in another sense. Pay attention.
What does this have to do with us? I mean, we're
I
not.
spy.
With my little eye, a notch.
Oh my god. Stop. Not the upside down bullshit.
6.
Is it this painting? It looks kind of like a knot.
Excellent, excellent. You're doing so well. It's time for the bonus round, Alex. So stay
It's hard not knowing what I can interact with.
what we want to find. I spy with my little eye a picture of a memory. Be fast, now.
The picture of I guess it's Maggie, Adler, and somebody. Is this it?
Yes,
Very nice.
Slash, the knot in the picture was so much easier than the television.
See, you and your schoolyard chums are experiencing, well, this has sort of happened before. Maggie and Anna tried to sport with us many years ago, and, well, only one survived. But in the process, we discovered a way for us to return, so to speak.
Okay, can I have Nona back?
It takes a little time.
Wait, what? What happened to Anna?
Let's leave it at the poor girl didn't know what
What she was playing with, it doesn't matter. They're not an eternal recurrence. The waves, it's the waves
Nona.
we think. And we will use those waves to absorb into your friends as sunlight blooms into flowers. And we will grow. And we will engulf.
You can't do that. Think
Well.
about what you're doing.
We can do that, Alex. And what it seems your parents as 80 years has been for us, eons to know an existence without life. We tried it too quickly with Anna, but now we know to wait and soak. We had to keep you here, on the island. It'll be a great honor, Alex, really, to carry us through this life.
I don't wanna.
On to the next.
There has to be another way. I mean, just maybe I can do something with the radio.
We never had our time. It was ripped from us. We watched the universe's conception fly to its demise over and over and over again. You don't know what it's been like. But how could you?
That is no excuse for stealing our souls.
Well, it's the only excuse you're gonna get.
Yikes!
When our vessel dashed on the rocks, we had until dawn, and so will you. We would spend our time wisely, and we thank you for your good service.
Well, that could have gone better.
Look, it's only mildly spooky. This is a bit of a pickle. You are correct. Okay. I'm sure we'll figure it out. I'm sure we'll handle it. No problems here.
Tell Michael he should go out on his own. Okay, seriously, who are you?
I mean, it's you, Alex. That said cat sand to something? I missed it. That's too fast. Okay. Next one. Excuse me.
So we can go on.
Whoa!
I think I'm gonna be sick.
Me first.
It wasn't a dream or a vision or something. You and Clarissa standing in the living room just now, was it?
Ugh.
No, that was very, very real.
And look, Alex, if you're ever getting asked to find someone's crap, less ghosts are gonna punish not you. Ask to tag out or something, cause God, that felt like my skin was getting pulled off.
Normally, she's good at this stuff. Normally.
I'm sorry, alright? I tried my best. I mean, when things are jumping all around, it's tough to even know what she was talking about.
So, I mean, Christ, if Clarissa was whisked away to the cave by nuclear submarine monsters, then, I mean, the plan has to be to retrieve her, right?
I'm still going to call them ghosts, if that's okay.
A ghost is...
Clarissa is only like one slice of the problem. We're all infected or whatever, so we
should fix the main issue, but we don't necessarily have to save Clarissa.
But how do we do that?
Just saying.
A good question.
Maggie, I think Maggie Adler might have had some sort of a plan or a scheme or something to fix what's going on.
What possible plan could Maggie Adler have? First of all, she's dead. And second of all, she was like the island...
She wrote in her journal or something or other about tuning into the source of the problem in the cave. And I think she was talking about the ghosts.
Well, if we're going to the cave... Oh, actually, I forgot. I saw the entrance has been caved in since you guys went inside.
Alright, I know there are a whole bunch of secret communist bomb-fearing tunnels dug into this place during the 1950s. And Maggie has loads of film about military stuff in her basement, so...
Maybe there's a way back into the cave through one of those, you're thinking?
Let's take a look.
What kind of name is Epiphany Fields anyway? Wait.
It's Epiphany.
Is it Epiphany?
It's,
It's Epiphany Field.
Oh, that makes more sense.
I think the tunnels are afraid of communists. Okay, let's... Do we need to look in the basement again? Probably not. I'm gonna check anyway. Because why not? Anything new?
Be careful, that film's really flammable. Wouldn't want Smoking Johnny to light the house on fire.
Run!
Alright, there's already something in here. Experiments and Findings of Experienced Phenomena, January 52.
Awesome.
Tunnel
man,
hunting
if
comics.
this turns out to be just
Oh
prehistoric home videos,
no.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is just the opener.
Look,
you
I don't know how to say the first
skip this
portion of your
one,
name, but
Alex.
Floor, welcome in. How's it going?
Yeah, hit the button to keep
Was you?
going. Okay, we're getting warmer, I think.
So, if you look at the
It is going
lines
very,
or
very
whatever,
well.
The bomb shelter should lead right into
I
the
am in
cave,
I am in
just
love
like
with
from another
this.
angle. According to this, at least.
Oh, so it does.
Brilliant.
Is it?
Yeah, how do we get in?
I've never played it
It's just
before.
like the
This is
cave
my
wall,
first time
only
through,
steel
and
or
I
whatever
am in
bomb
love.
shelters are made
Oh, what? She knew about these things?
Wow, that's crazy.
It says that to fix a temporal tear, that's a mouthful, in the cave,
It's
we
not-
need to
it's not that
transpose to
bad,
the
Ren. Come
other
on.
side and tune into the source within itself?
Okay, but we're not doing that, right?
Good question.
Yeah, that's going a little above and beyond.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but
Listen.
strap in, boys and girls, because we might have to, okay? If it's the only thing that will fix us.
Yeah, but that's
Is this why Alex is showing
Well,
up in the
something
mirror?
better work.
Because we've thrown
Or we're
ourselves
bound.
into this terrible triangle of
Precisely.
death?
Oh, sorry, this looks like the end, but from the wrong film thing.
No, wait. This is something I actually remember from that stupid radio tour thing, because it, sounded so weird. It's called the call and response system.
Yeah,
It unlocks the bomb shelter. This is showing us how to do it. See? It says, when someone sends an emergency signal from the Catbird station in the woods, and the receiving station confirms it. It's like a connected response thing.
Brilliant!
Really?
It's good enough for me.
We're just gonna keep
Alex
saying
and I will
brilliant.
head through the woods, do the
Oh.
call part. You and Ren can hang by the door to the bomb shelter and open it
To
when
be
it's ready.
fair, most things are things that Howard Lovecraft would be afraid of.
Wait, I'm sorry, I kind of zoned out there for a second. What are we
I
doing?
did.
Ren and
I
Nona
saw
are team,
that there's a
Soaring
second
Eagle,
one,
and you and I are awesome
but
squad.
I didn't know if it had come
We're
out
splitting
yet
up to
or if
work
it
on
was
some
still or
old-fangled
about to
machinery
come
to open the
out.
bomb shelter, to get into the cave, to yada yada yada, save our lives or whatever.
So this is extremely exciting. It's a good thing I'm playing this now then. Like, are they shooting for this year, do we know? Also use the response station to open bomb shelter. Okay, cool. We can do that.
All right? Break. And if anything goes wrong, please don't tell me. I won't want to know.
We won't.
Ooh. I get why a lot of things over the last couple years have been, like, postponed. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that, though. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, like I said, I hadn't played this before. It's been sitting in my library for, like, actual years. And it was one that I just hadn't gotten around to playing yet. And Smiley recommended that I check it out. And I was like, you know what, I probably should. It's about time that I actually do this. So here we are, doing the thing. And it's very good. Stretch redeem from stars! I can do this. Okay, hang on. Also, thank you for getting the shout out there. It's still being dumb, and I'm trying to work on making it function, but it just doesn't. But also, y'all should go follow my friend Smiley, because she's delightful. Okay, stretch time. I was also gonna say, we should probably take a short break. I think I'm gonna stream for another, like, half hour or so, at the least. I usually only do 2 hours in the afternoons, but I'm really digging this, and I don't know if I'm streaming this evening. Everyone's playing API error. It's the biggest hit right now. It's super popular. My bot's broken. I need to figure out how to fix it, but that's okay. We'll do that some other time. Good stretch. So yeah, let's take a very short break. Just a real quick short break. So I can get up and stretch my legs. But also, use the restroom. All y'all should also do the same. Get up, stretch, get something to snack on if you don't have that yet. Refill your drinks if you need something to drink. And we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Yeah? It's a game about bees. Look, I would play that. Bees show up a lot. We kind of like bees here. But yeah, I'll be right back, and then we'll play some more Oxenfree.
Don't you want to become a cult leader? Since the death of God, there's been a vacancy open. You could fill that void.
I am back. I'm ready to go. Hopefully y'all are ready as well. Shall we do some more games? Okay, good. I was concerned that the sound had gone away, but it's still here. Oh, I should check the radio.
From top to bottom, under Cena, Tango, Alpha, India, Romeo,
Under stairs?
Cena.
Okay.
From top to bottom.
Where is our little letter then? Hi, Devo. Devo says hi. Why, thanks. I am back. We're here. Let's go. What? Hey, can you stop? Would you like to say hey to everybody? Come here. Devo. What? You can't just cry about everything. Come here. Look. It's the baby. It's a little baby man. It's a sweet little baby boy. Hi. Can you say hello? No. You just have to look around. Are you happy now that you're here? He is trying to bury himself in my arm. Devo, listen. You can't do that. Oh, we're getting the licks. Thank you. Would you like to lay down in my lap? Is this what you want? My sweet boy? He's a big old goober. What are you doing? You need to sit down, sir. This is not sitting down. This is crawling all over everywhere and kicking my blanket away. You can't do this. You're too big for this. Are you hopping down or are you laying down? What are you doing? My hands are not for you right now, bud. Okay.
Oh, Maggie says she hopes the notes are found by the correct person. Well, I guess that'll have to be us.
Okay. Do you want to get down? He says, no, I don't want to get down. To whoever is finding these notes, understand my hope is that by enshrouding this intelligence in such an obtuse manner, its detection will discourage most innocent seekers, thereby allowing it to befall the correct person and not the easily destructive military mind, nor the typically bewildered excursionist. Do not blame the submarine's crew. I don't believe its passengers like Henry Griffin can even understand what has truly happened to them. And you do not have to forgive me for my myriad failures, but please remember the name Anna Shea. Know that she did not deserve her fate. Oh. Oh. Okay, where else? I wish there was a a little way for me to like mark which places I have gotten a letter from. But that's okay. We'll try and remember. We've definitely gotten one from like the start of the island.
At the top of the hill, in the Charlie, Oscar, Lima, Oscar, Romeo, Echo, Delta, field.
In the colored field? Okay. Devo. Little man keeps smashing his head into my arm. This doesn't work, buddy. Hi. I know you're very baby, and I love you for it. But consider... I'm busy. Devo cares not for what I am doing. He just wants the hands. Dang Americans. And their awful spelling. It's me. I'm a danged American. I think I usually put U's in most of my words, though, and I have no idea where I picked that up. Or why I do it, but I've done it for years. Smiley. Please. Is this what they meant by flavor text? Adler letter. There it is.
That woman, Marianne Bozick, helped her transcribe the ghost's transmissions.
Marianne Bozick, forever engraved on the command annex's memorial plaque, was a kind, humble woman who helped me decode the ghost's unusual messages. I don't think she ever really believed my hypothesis that they were relays from the sunken submarine, even though she corresponded with, as she put it, a man named Calvin, an electrician who died on the Kanaloa. I pieced together the truth, the cover-up, and my own tragic mistake that killed him and his mates over the months of careful deciphering. Oh. We gotta open the we gotta open up the shack. Is there? This doesn't entirely shock me. It's a lot of text to be going through. But what's the typo? Oh? Okay. Is it this station? Or is it the, Hardin Tower? Here? I like that we have the expanded radio now, but it is...
Data Command Annex, as it dubbed, was used during the base's early years as the communication nerve center for outside military installations. It was also the primary office of Marianne Bozek, a civilian who developed communications protection through the invention of the famed
Oh, it's
WAL
the
system,
WOL, yeah.
a type of radio frequency identification.
Right?
WAL, standing for Wave-Assisted Lock.
I think I noticed that earlier, but like just didn't comment on it because we hadn't come across anything else. Assisted. Wave assisted. I'm playing the version of the game that includes little Easter eggs for the sequel. Oh, nice. That's exciting. I mean, not that I have noticed any of them yet. I think I've been just too enthralled by everything else to pick up on it. But that's awesome. Hey! Hey! Anomaly! Where are you?
Come out.
There.
Come out. Whenever you are. Blood from the sky makes the planet shine. Blood on the dirt makes the planet shine.
Said 10. What is that? 100.3?
Makes the planet shine. Come out. Come out. Whenever you are.
I would like to not come out, actually. No, that is awesome though that they put that in there. Was that with an update? Do you think? Because like I said, like I purchased this, I think like a year after it came out, and then I just never played it. Okay, we've got the letter here. Okay, neat. No, that's awesome. I like that. I like things like that. Okay, so we've gotten Main Street. Speed up the track from that anomaly. It says you have until dawn. That's what Clarissa told us. Oh my god, I love little things like that. I know some of you know I kind of went super ham on like Inscription, trying to figure out like all of its little clues and stuff. I like that this like ties into what's going on here. Did I check this one out? Pretty sure I did. But just like little hidden messages and stuff throughout games. I love that so much.
How many of you?
Yeah, we did that one. Okay. Oh, I've really dug this. This is awesome. It's one of the, and it's, I don't know. There was an ARG tied to the anomalies? Be still my heart. Oh. Brain's freaking out. Oh! Hi, Ren! Bye, Ren!
Alex.
This is
Alex,
fine.
Okay, are you back to normal?
I'm gonna have to look into that because I love ARGs. I saw Ren drowning.
It was like a premonition, I think, and I know
I
that sounds
love
whatever, but
ARGs.
this is what it's like when people say they do that, because I kind of just saw Ren drowning.
Okay, just take it easy for a second. You went all
And this seems like
red-eyed, like
the
when we
perfect
get
kind of
possessed.
game to have something like that associated with it.
I can't let that matter right now. Ren, look, I just know he needs me. I mean, me seeing him in trouble must mean he's, like, actually in trouble, right?
Not really. I think it's just an effect of the possession or something. Like, look, when I went under, I saw, but not really, you on a beach with a battleship.
Is that really what you saw when you were possessed?
Yeah, and I'm sure when it happened to him, Ren saw his own weird stuff too. So, I don't know, but I think he's okay. Let's keep on to the station.
Okay.
We can talk to him from there anyway.
Okay.
First, we will eat and... See the girls, yes?
That is awesome! I adore I adore those kinds of things. There's just so much, like, so much creativity and so much thought and planning that goes into it. I just, that's awesome. 104, what was it? 140, that's why I'm not hearing anything. Okay, there's nothing here. See, and I think... no, it shows. It absolutely shows. I wanna go to Fort Milner before we go to the station. Unless this is where the station is. I'm so bad at remembering locations. Hold on. No, we're trying to get to the bridge stand. So as long as we check out Fort Milner and the US Army RCS, then we can go back down and potentially hit up the campgrounds.
Under the ladder, below the Tango, Oscar, Whiskey, Echo, Romeo.
Below the tower? Okay. Where? There it is.
The communication school here taught them how to make codes.
Ah, that's so cool. Sorry, I'm just gonna, like, scream a little bit about how much I love that. Recruits learned communications technology here, and several others learned code breaking. It's true. But due to my aptitude in math and mechanical engineering, I was assigned code making, specifically ciphers with which to conceal projects from even other government agencies. It was a job I grew increasingly uncomfortable with, but my keen interest in radio science had me pulling double duty as a comms officer. I remember one of the Kanaloa's engineers, Francis, calling me a radio woman. As far as he knew, it was my only job. Great. And then, can we get into the RCS building? And check for another thing there, and then go back to the campgrounds? Or do we want to go north before then? I realize I'm kind of, like, ignoring our goal at the moment, but I want to get all the things. This wants me to go to the bridge stand, right? So maybe... we haven't gotten the thing from the woods, which is a little unfortunate. Oh, we're in the facilities, not the RCS yet. But we can get from the relay point to the campgrounds, right? We'll figure it out. Mama!
For Fina, Lima, Echo, Echo, Papa.
Sleep?
In the middle of things.
Oh, can I open this?
Time. Ina.
Here. Just thinking about it. There it goes. Anomaly, right here. I do appreciate that the radio is kind of color-coded. Like, red means anomaly, green means...
Something keeps touching my leg in the water, and I don't know what it is. Can we just go into the cave now?
No, sure. I just want you to have a good time. Wait, I think there's something down there.
Wait, Jason, don't trip, there's a... Jason?
Okay. I was saying something and then I lost it. It's fine. It's fine. Color-coded! Color-coded radio. I appreciate that.
Oh, it says that
so it's little touch,
the
but
base
it's
first found
cool.
the ghost's messages here.
The first transmissions from the Lost Soldiers were recorded here by a signal officer training new recruits. I heard about it soon after. Yes, word of the childlike, almost playful messages spread quickly, but the broadcasts were usually dismissed as an ongoing prank, faulty equipment, or AM stations bouncing off the Midland. However, after I successfully decoded one as a mayday from Calvin Gilbert, you spelled electrician. I assume this is supposed to be electrician, who perished on the USS Kanaloa, I knew it had to be something more. Electrician. Okay, and then... Can we go to the RCS building now, please? That's awesome. Are they ones that are just, like, scattered around that you can occasionally pick up on? Because, like, I've noticed that there have been some that are sort of, like, not correlated with anything that I'd noticed.
If you want direction, this, Golf, Uniform, India, Delta, Echo, can help.
Guide? This guide. Did I try this one? I'm sure I did.
If you...
I also want to know what all those, like, Morse code stations are saying. I'm very bad at picking out Morse code, though. I did do this one. Okay.
Maggie brought her friend Anna here to help, I guess.
When people in the comms department began transferring off, I was able to convince my higher-ups, including, coincidentally, one eventual army passenger on board the Kanaloa, Henry Griffin, to bring Anna on board as a replacement. Anna had been working in broadcasting, so it made enough sense to the upper ranks. Incidentally, when I dream, it is usually during this time period, amidst the change, and I am trying to prevent Anna from ever coming. Her sister... Are we still in the... We are in the RCS building. Okay, cool. Great! So that's all the notes over here. I'm still trying to figure out if it would be best for us to go north and then cut across, or if we should just go down to the forest. I think we should go through the forest, cut across to the up and around. Okay. I think I've gone the wrong way, though. How did I get down here? Milner Outpost. No, I understand how I got here. Kind of. Vaguely. That's fine. This is fine. No, up and around makes sense, because we would hit more points to get letters that way. We'll just have to remember to go to the forest at some point. But I think I can remember that. Because I think other than that, we've hit everything. We got Main Street, Discovery Cliffs, Beacon Beach. We did the Adler Estate. We've done Epiphany Fields, the Milner Outpost facilities, and the RCS. Did we do Hardin Tower? I think we did. Whatever. We'll hit the relay point and the campgrounds. Go to the bridge stand to do what we need to there. And then we can do the Toey Woods and the Hardin Tower on our way back down to the bunker. This makes sense to my brain. So I think that's how we'll do this. Is this... This is the right way. I can go up this way. No murders! No murders this time. Not yet. I mean, maybe Clarissa, but you know, that'd be a passive murder, not one we're actively trying to do. If she dies, that's fine. I am curious, Floor and Smiley, what were your opinions of Clarissa the first time that you went through? Have I done this? I don't know what that is, but that's okay. Because I hated her. Did not like Clarissa your first playthrough. I guess I don't necessarily want to say I hate her, but I definitely was like, you need to go away and stop. Right? Yeah, no, so mean. Unnecessarily mean. Okay, cool. That helps. Like, as far as, like, planning on where to go, that does help. I figure Hardened Tower was, like, the most important. Well, not necessarily. I figured that, like, any of the ones kind of close to the bunker would be fairly important. So cool. Us saving Hardened Tower for last. Good option, then. Okay. We are here.
A penny for a Whiskey India Cena Hotel.
Penny for a wish. Oh, the well. We need to go to the well. Which is here? I remembered. Beautiful. You love to see it.
They, Maggie and Anna tried to bring the soldiers back in the cave.
Okay. Okay. I didn't think I was alone in disliking Clarissa at first, but I just wanted to check. After stealing equipment from this relay station, Anna and I entered the cave just before dawn to try and communicate directly with the crew of the USS Kanaloa. We successfully tuned in to the source of the temporal tear and spoke, albeit briefly, to Henry Griffin, an SOC sergeant who died on the sub, but the power overwhelmed my dear Anna, and she was absorbed into its ridge. All that remains there now is the flickering hue of a partially open gate, a window to a perpendicular space that seems to have augmented the submarine's call. But of all my regrets, perhaps the deepest is knowing Anna's last vision was of me fleeing from her in terror. Also, submarine is spelled incorrectly. I mean, I'm assuming that she's, like, upset at Alex and just particularly mean to her because of her role, or lack thereof, in what happened to Michael, right? And everyone processes grief differently, but it's also just like, ugh, you can't do that. Don't be like that. Oof. Okay, so we got the relay point note, so now it is the campground time.
You know what time it is?
It's 4 in the morning, which is usually about the time everyone decides if they're going to bed or ordering another 3 pizzas.
Yeah? What's your vote usually in
pizza
that situation?
Never leave pizza on the table. It's like getting 11 in blackjack. Just double down. Don't even think about it.
You think this tuning into the tear thing's gonna work? Like, really?
To be fair here, I really only understood like 6/12 of the whole scheme, so...
So half?
6/12. Well, that's better than me. I just kind of wish that I felt like these ghosts were just a little concerned that their plan won't work. I just feel like they're pretty confident.
Yikes.
They know by sunrise they're all going to be shopping for school supplies.
Jonas, don't worry about that. We don't know what they're thinking apart from the I want to live in you thing.
I'll try not to worry.
Yeah. Okay, let's...
Non-stop for view at the cliffs. Lima, Echo, Foxtrot, Tango, Edge. Non-stop.
Left.
Echo, Foxtrot, Tango, Edge. Non-stop for view at the cliffs. Lima, Echo, Foxtrot, Tango, Edge.
Also, did I do this one? Nope, that's music. I did do this one. Over here? Up here. Also, did I do these rocks? No. I did do this one. Okay. I also want to, like, I assume that the anomalies are sort of like an optional collectible type situation. So I'm not terribly worried about getting all of them. I would like to. But also, if we don't, that's
Maggie thought
okay.
that the way the ghosts can talk to us and vice versa is waves.
Anna and I frequently conducted tests at what was once the East Barracks here during the brutal winter of '51. Waves of any kind, radio, nuclear, electromagnetic, seemed able to pass through all existences under certain circumstances, which explained our ability to get communiques sent from them. This might also justify the frequency of hearing one of the Kanaloa's electrician's call signs, Calvin Gilbert, come echoing through the relays. On April 4th, 1952, we would attempt to reverse the manifest breakdown and bring the soldiers back. Hey!
Yeet.
Thank you, Nikki, for the lurk and the subscription. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out, even briefly. And again, thank you for the subscription, friend. We appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so we've gotten a letter here. I'm just gonna keep checking the map every 10 seconds. Don't mind us. We gotta go to the bridge stand. And then we can do the woods and Hardin Tower. Great. We might end soon-ish. Next 15-20 minutes or so. Keep slowly but surely extending the amount of time that we're gonna play. My shoulders are starting to get a little tense though, and I need to stretch out and tend to that though. I am going the wrong way. This is not. This is where we came from. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I don't necessarily know how far along we are. But worst comes to worst, I might, if I don't stream our random indie games tonight like I normally do, depending on how I'm feeling, I might just stream this some more. Because I think I, like, mentioned it, like, over the week. It's like, as exhausted as I've been, it's been more of an emotional than a physical exhaustion. I am actually very physically tired today. But streaming has been, like, really nice and really mellow lately. And it hasn't been, like, taking a ton out of me, which has been very lovely. I'm just super not prepared for our indie night. I haven't had any time to just sit down and, like, look for games to check out. It's been a week, y'all. It's been a couple of weeks. Hey, Jonas, do you want to hurry up, buddy? So yeah, we might, I don't want to, like, say we'll finish this tonight. If I stream tonight, it might just be more OXENFREE. It's all good. I mean, it's... I appreciate the thought and the concern. It's like that sometimes, you know? Sometimes life doesn't go the way that you want it to go. And it decides to throw everything at y'all at once. But I feel like I've been pretty well equipped to handle it, honestly, all things considered.
And give them to Golf, Romeo,
Graves,
Alpha, Victor.
Little tiny graveyard. Rock pile by the bench, it seems, of 4 ships. Oh. Okay. I appreciate all of this extra information that you're giving, Floor. Because a lot of the stuff, like, I didn't necessarily know how to, like, place any of
She
it.
thinks that the ghosts
But
are
I figured it was
pushed
all
out of our
tied in
reality
together.
and maybe aren't actually dead?
My belief, bolstered by Anna's and my research conducted largely at the Catbird station where interruptions were rare, is that the men and women of the USS Kanaloa were separated from our dimensional existence by the implosion of the submarine's nuclear reactor. I identified one passenger, Henry, by his call sign, and his confused diction and reliance on game logic says to me that their emotional states, if not mental states, had been reduced to that of children. A thought I cling to when I envision Anna's demise. Okay. So that just leaves the woods and the tower. Okay. It's me just trying to remind myself of where I need to go after this. Or we could just do it now. We could just finish stream by collecting the last 2 notes. This goes up to the cabin. I don't want to be there. Also, how many... I only have 3 anomalies left to locate. Alright. Yeah, let's go collect the last 2 notes. And then once we do that, we'll leave it there. Because the map does tell us where, like, our next main location is. And while I think I would remember where, or, like, the last 2 places that we haven't gotten letters from, I'm concerned that I wouldn't. I can't go this way? Do I have to go down? Okay. That's fine. But yeah, what was I saying? Last couple of weeks. It's been a lot. But we've been handling it. Can I not go back this way? Game. Okay. That's rude. But I understand. Maybe we'll do the objective and then we'll grab the last 2 letters and call it there. Maybe we just keep playing. No, I definitely need to take a break.
Now
I
the
should probably get
station's
some
up at the
food.
top
Oh
of the
no.
hill. I hope this works.
God, we're in another loop-de-loo. They always come at the most appropriate times, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Thanks for the update. Now the station's up at the top of the hill. I hope this works.
Yep, I am also... hope that.
I am also hope that. Jonas, can you move a little bit, buddy? Please? Is there anything in here that I can mess with? Nope. Can we... Will you allow me to go up the stairs now? Absolutely not. Wait, what? Okay, if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna go try and blow up the lights in here. It's light time.
Had it never been found.
Hold on, let's start on the far end. Anything?
It would have.
Anything at all? Okay. What if we just leave? What if we just try to leave? Oh!
Ren! Nona, what happened? What's wrong with Ren?
Ren, he had an accident. He died. I couldn't.
No, come on. Clarissa was dead too, but like bunny ears dead, not dead, because apparently killing yourself doesn't actually do anything here. Alex. I'm sorry.
That's not what we wanted to say.
I didn't mean anything.
What happened?
He drowned. He took a fall.
Oh no.
I don't know. He just stopped.
I mean, does it really matter what happened?
Yes.
Either way, done is done.
Fix Ren, whatever you want to call it. I know you're doing it. Just fix it.
It's not us doing it, dear. We weren't lying. The time loops, as you've taken to calling them, which we do find so adorable, are of your own making.
Yeah, sure. Just like you infesting us like lice isn't your fault either.
That we have and will own up to, but the other stuff, that we're afraid is on you. Alex, we know you're in charge and we know your plan, and we also know that your plan won't work. It never does. So we have a proposition for you. A deal. A bargain, really.
A proposition? Like what?
It's already over with Clarissa. She's gone. We'll pilot her through the rest of existence, and there's nothing you can do to change that.
Okay.
But if you agree to let us take her, let her go, quietly, without fuss. You won't slaughter the rest of your friends, like young Reginald here. We leave the rest of you cattle alone.
Take her, then.
You know, it's not often that we meet someone your age that's as mature as you are, Alex. You really understand things.
I know what I'm doing. Don't patronize me.
We know that you know. As you were, Alex. We've enjoyed engaging with you tonight.
Okay, but where's Jonas? Hey, have you... Can you release Jonas? You still won't let me go up there. Okay, that's fine. I figured I would give it a shot. I didn't think they would let me, but also... Hey, Nona. Oh.
I know he was your best friend, Alex. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. When...
Oh. No. 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 Let me... Okay. We are still going. I'm gonna end soon, though. It's about time I take a break.
The station's up at the top of the... God, that was... My mouth feels
Well, we're
like
doing
I
it.
just ate a tree.
You were possessed. And for the longest time, I think that we've, seen so far.
Yeah, I know. I can kind of remember that part.
Hello?
Ren? Nona?
What? Are they... Oh, they're somehow... I guess they're somehow broadcasting or something from the, station speakers.
Are you guys at the station?
They're both alive. That's all I care about.
Jonas?
God.
Yeah, no,
Jonas,
that's a
punch
bonus
out
too.
so you can hear this. Seriously,
Punch
right in
me.
the throat.
Don't
Jonas,
do that.
don't listen. We're all set here for the thing? The machinery speak and hug or whatever we're doing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Did I do this one? I hadn't done this one.
Actually wasted. Like I feel my body wasted away.
No, it's okay if you're like
I'm trying to get this anomaly, guys.
What stuff?
There it goes. Right?
When I almost kind of slipped and fell off the bridge.
Oh my god, you guys, that...
No, it was
It was psychotic to watch.
Here?
Like, almost doesn't quite describe the terror that held my heart watching her come close.
It wasn't that.
You were perilously
Where?
close to tumbling into the ocean from like 5,000 feet up.
It wasn't that high.
It was like...
Trying to find this one as being a little weird.
No, it wasn't.
There?
It was.
No, just whatever. I'm fine.
Is it because they're still
She's
talking?
fine. It's true.
Shut up.
Is it because they're still talking?
Okay, just... whenever you're ready. 'Cause
Ren!
I'm sure you're listening.
Shut the fuck up!
Hit the button, the receiver thing, and we can do this stuff.
Stuff, exactly.
Okay.
Oh
over.
my god, they never shut up, do they?
Why do you have to have the last word? Over's good enough.
Over now.
Are you done? Where is it? Why is this not working? Here? Oh no. Okay, we'll come back to it then. That's a little annoying. No bug, only work. I mean, there's a lot going on in this area, I suppose. A lot happening. Oh, it's still doing that. Okay. It's like, I know that sometimes they're a little finicky, but this seems a little ridiculous. Where is... door? Wait, is this the... Oh, never mind. In we go.
Hello, we're here. We made it. Hello.
Jeez, finally, thank you.
If you're being sat on by a very large burglar, just mash the dial with your fist, please.
It is so nice to hear you two finding the sunny side of all this.
We are.
Well, he is.
We both are. Don't let her fool you.
Send the call.
Signal verified. Shelter TF1 open.
Nice.
I guess it worked.
Great.
Meet you there?
Okay, we'll meet you there.
Right. See you at the shelter.
Over and out.
Great. Okay. Like I said, I'll do this anomaly. We'll grab the last two letters and then we'll call it there. I will... Hi, Mimi! How are you doing, friend? How's it going? Oh. Please. I just want you to work. I'm never gonna remember that this is one that I need. Sad. Okay, well... Does it count? It doesn't count. We're doing alright. We're super tired today. Gotta get your work done, Stars. It's important. Do your dang work. Yeah, no, like I said, we might... Mimi, thank you for the contribution to the alien stream. We might forego indie night, our usual indie horror night, and do some OXENFREE tonight. If I'm up for streaming, I may not be. If not, we'll figure it out. I'll let everyone know what's going on. It's been a good day. Today has been a good day. I'm just tired. Allie, thank you for the contribution as well. I do want to get these last notes though before we call it, because like I said, I will forget that they are here and that I need them. So,
A fallen
This isn't like a big
Tango,
thing,
Romeo,
but I just want
Echo,
to say,
Echo.
I
Now,
think it would have been cool us
Tree?
living together for whatever,
Tree?
senior year. And I'm just glad
I
met
mean,
you,
it's
that's
true.
all.
This does,
I'm
this
just
does
glad we
fall
met.
in line
Well, come on, of course you are.
with
Jonas.
what
I'm,
we
like,
usually
thoroughly
do.
Awesome.
Usually
Yeah,
what we do for
right.
Fridays.
And now we can go
Since
back
you're
to the
new
whole
here.
escaping and trying to live another
is
day thing.
we play like random horror, like free indie horror games off like Itch.io and stuff.
And we're gonna be fine, by the way. There's no, you don't have to put it like it would have
because
been.
I like to
live
see
together.
what's out
We
there,
are gonna live
find
together,
new
and you're
devs
someday
that
soon
deserve
gonna eat all the
support.
peanut butter, and when I go make a sandwich, I'm gonna be mad.
Whoa!
Jesus, what are you doing jumping
I'm
across
jumping.
that?
We're
There's
jumping.
There's like another way to...
It's fine.
Not as big a jump as it looks.
You, barely made it, but okay.
But this does
I
work
guess.
for indie horror. It's true. It's true. I was gonna laugh if he just fucking ate shit. Okay, it said a fallen tree, but now there's like weird stuff up here. What is going on?
I think this stuff is getting pulled in from like their time or something. This is so weird.
Yeah, it's not exactly a good omen. I think we're running out of runway here.
It's fine. We've got this. I'm trying to find this fallen tree. I think I've gone the wrong way. This is fine. Not the yawns. This is fine. It's all fine. No, this has been such a delightful experience, though. I consider me a fan. We're here for this. Where is this fallen tree? There! I found it, I think. Yep, there it is.
I guess Maggie was the one who had this place turned into a park.
After the fort closed, I used the considerable resources from my father's endowment to buy up most of the land or influence government officials to declare that which I could not buy protected. I've not been entirely successful and have watched in horror as a small tourist industry has precariously sprung upon this cursed island. Even the family of one of the sailors who died, Calvin Gilbert, set up a restaurant to cater to inquisitive out-of-towners. I can promise this, though. The museum will never happen and the beach and caves will be boarded up. Yeah, about that. Okay, so that's what's here. There's probably some anomalies here that I missed, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm not as invested in getting all of those as I am the letters. I'll probably do it some other time, honestly. This is fine. This is fine. Excuse me. Not the yawns. No yawns. Or all of the yawns. I guess. We'll go to Hardin Tower, get the letter, end there. Start plotting who we want to go hang out with. Who we're gonna raid into. Alright. Not 5 a.m.
Okay, I'm just gonna say one thing, and then I promise it'd be the last time I bring it up tonight. But you know you screwed up with Ashley at the concert, right? I mean, it's not a giant thing, but still.
Who's Ash? Oh, you mean Amanda? My really good friend Amanda who's moving away forever? That Amanda?
Yeah, that Amanda, who stole her mom's car. And I don't care if you didn't know she didn't have permission to take it, because
that's
whatever,
fair.
Fine. But you
fair
knew
point.
you didn't have permission to go to that show. Just tell me it's the last time I hear about you stealing a car, however inadvertently.
It'll be.
It will always. You always have to account for inquisitive teens.
I don't really care about the reasons. Just for my own sanity, don't do it anymore. Oh, and I wanted to say, per your advice, I think I'm gonna really, like, commit to Clarissa. That sounds dumb, like I'm pinning her or something.
Commit? What the hell does that mean? You're in high school.
I know. I sound like I'm 40, but I don't know. It's not gonna be casual anymore. It's gonna be a thing, a real thing. That's all. So just get used to her. That's all I'm saying.
Gross.
Come on, let's get to the Sentry before the last boat comes. I gotta get the visual aid for the history project. And then I just gotta write the stupid essay.
What history project? They still make you do, like, work with so little left in the year?
Unfortunately.
Absolutely.
It's just like a town history thing for civics, you know? So it's forced me to kind of, I don't know. And I mean, it's funny, I don't know if I even want to be here next year. It's just all so flat. Same people, the same expressions.
Well, if you leave, I'd certainly miss you.
Yeah, no, I'd miss you too. It's just that everybody here knows me, you know? I know you think I have it on easy street, but people looking at you all the time, wanting evidence that it's good, that they lived here, that good things can happen to people that are from here, it can get to be a real drag. Like, how about somebody else be captain of whatever for once? Give me a rest.
Just don't put so much pressure on yourself, Michael. Who cares what they think? You're gonna do what you're gonna do.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Yes, I will.
Screen's very bright right now.
Let's head back before Karen Strands is here. You know, when we saw Uncle Pete last month, I wanted to ask him because he got out moving to New York. And I asked him if it was hard leaving. Know what he said?
It was easy. I mean, knowing Uncle Peter, he was probably 3 sheets to the wind.
He said the hardest part was deciding what to take with him and what to leave behind. I thought it was, I don't know, for him, kind of almost touching.
Oh my, how profound. I can't believe Uncle Pete's a mere failed actor and not teaching philosophy at Berkeley.
Oh, shut up.
Wowee.
I cannot believe I had to pick you up from the police station because of Grand Theft Auto. I mean, that is too funny.
J.J. Abrams.
Oh, shut up.
All right. Oh, key cat. I can do a hydrate.
Alex?
Shut up.
You got, you went bad again.
Thank you,
Couldn't
Mimi.
get you out of it.
Reminder.
We should get
All
this
y'all
done
should drink some
now.
water as well. It's
I saw
important.
Michael again. I'm sorry. When I'm there, I just get sucked into it like nothing happened.
Come on, it's all right. I think I can hear Ren and Nona down there.
Will you not let me go there because we have to go to the oh no. Okay, well that's okay. We can end here and meet them down at the whatever. Let me turn this back up. Now that it's not so bright. Be angry. Be angry, Smiley. Thanks for being here. Like I said, I've really been enjoying this. This has been wonderful. Hollow Knight is perfect and we love it. Alright, let us see what's going on. Allie has recommended 3 different people. What is J.J. Abrams playing? Doing some Animal Crossing. Otherwise, Ghost Panda is doing some Starbound. And She Gamer is doing some Dead by Daylight. Y'all got preferences for any of those games? You can get to the tower game, gives you a clear point of no return. Good. We appreciate that. We love that for us. I love it when games do that though. I think that's like super important. Okay, cool. Yeah, so do we want to do Dead by Daylight? Well, I've already forgotten what all of them are. Dead by Daylight, Starbound, or Animal Crossing. What are we all feeling? What kind of vibes do we want after spooky Oxenfree vibes? Or we got the AMs doing some art. That's also an option. Oh my god, sorry. I'm just gonna keep yawning. Oh. You wanna go do some art? It's art time? It looks like Ams is doing some Kirby art. Some mouthful mode Kirby art. I'm kinda here for Kirby art. Alright. If people are gonna go raid with us, there are our raid messages. The very first one is for everyone. It has global emotes, so anyone can use that. Otherwise, the second one has, sub emotes on it. We got some cool emotes, if you're not subbed and are considering. But we're gonna go hang out with the AMs while they do some art stuff. I know they were doing co-create earlier. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here and being wonderful and fantastic and just great people. I'll let y'all know what I plan on doing this evening, as far as whatever is concerned, streaming is concerned. But until then, take care of your dang selves. I love you, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye!